Hey guys, it's Adrian or BHA here bringing you a new video. So the great folks over at Vimtag have sent me over one of their all new indoor-outdoor Wi-Fi enabled 8310 smart cameras. Now this thing looks pretty cool. It's very small form factor. To me it almost looks more like an indoor camera than outdoor, but they tell me it's outdoor. It definitely has a small spotlight on it even for shining light and getting that color night vision capability at night. So I definitely want to check this thing out. It's not going to be PTZ, but you point it wherever you need to. As long as you got Wi-Fi in that area, you can plug it in. This thing looks pretty awesome. Definitely something to consider if you're renting a house and you don't want to have to do a full install or anything like that. This thing will be very easy to set up. It does support 512 gig SD card, which is a lot bigger than most cameras that I've seen, so that's kind of cool as well. Nonetheless, we're going to take a look at it and see what all we can do with it. Here we go. You can pick this thing up on Amazon for just about 50 bucks. But right now, there is a coupon, which will make it about 20% less. And actually, from what I can see on their website, if you look at it, the black version of this camera is actually a little bit cheaper. It looks like even $10 cheaper, and also has the coupon. So if you're interested in this camera at all, you're probably going to want to check out that version. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Alright, so Vimtag 8310. So this is a pretty small camera, and you can see the box is pretty small as well. There is some information on the outside of the box kind of giving you the camera's capabilities, or at least some of its capabilities. So there's not going to be a lot in this box. There just isn't a lot to this whole setup, which really makes it simple. So we got the instructions for getting this thing set up. We got a power brick for powering the camera. Let's see, we got mounting screws as well as double stick tape. So depending on where you want to install it, you have a couple of different options there. Next we got a USB-C power cable, which is pretty long. And then of course we have the camera itself. And you can see how small this thing actually is. Right above the camera lens is a spotlight there. And again, this camera being so small is really why I think the camera is great for renters. That, of course, and the simple installation. You know, for renters that can't tear up anything in their apartment, but want to have a little bit of security, can easily set this thing up. On the bottom is where the reset power button is, as well as the micro SD card slot, which supports up to 512 gig, which is crazy. Most micro SD card slots that I've seen on cameras really only handle up to about 128 gigs, so surprisingly this does 512. But that's it as far as everything that comes in the box. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step and we'll get this thing installed. Getting this camera installed is really easy. There just isn't much to it at all. So I'm installing this on the front side of my house. I have a testing post here right at the front. I do a lot of camera testing off this post. It's easy to just mount a camera on here, and then I can, view the whole yard or whatever area of the front yard that I want to view. So you can see I currently have a different camera out there where I was testing before. So we're going to remove that one first. And then once we get it removed, it should be pretty easy to just put this new camera right in its place. And then basically all we need to do is just power it on, and we are ready to go as far as getting it added into the Vimtag app. So we now have all of that done, and we are ready to move on to the next step and get this camera added into the Vimtag app on my phone. Okay, so the app we are using is called Vimtag. So you can search for it in the Apple Store or Google Play Store and it should come up without any issue. But once you have it installed and you've created your login, then you are ready to add the camera. So we can hit the plus on the top corner there. And you can see there are tons of different device categories here, but the one we are looking for is under outdoor cameras. It's called Mini Cam. If you haven't already, it wants you to power on the camera, so we have already done that. We'll just hit next here. And now we are supposed to scan the QR code that's on the side of the camera. Looks like there are two installation methods here. We are going to go with the QR code recommended method there, right there at the top. We got to put in our Wi-Fi information. Now remember, this is a 2.4 gigahertz camera, so it will not support 5 gigahertz. It'll take it just a second to make that connection. And there we go. Now we are supposed to hold this QR code in front of the camera and let it scan that. And we are done. Looks like we have good Wi-Fi signal. That's good. We can go ahead and change the name if we want. I'm just going to go with front door, one of the listed options there. And that's it. We now have the camera installed and added to the Vimtag app on my phone. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step, and I'll go over the various config options in the app. So here we are in the Vimtag app, and if we click on the camera here, right there under the camera we got the sound button. If we want to hear what's going on, we have color night vision, or I guess it's just your night vision toggle, so you can decide what kind of night vision you want. You got your streaming quality, which has a couple of different options there. I like to kind of keep it at auto. I think it gives you the best setup there. Then of course the full screen button. And now just under all those is the record and snapshot buttons. We have the two-way talk button if you want to speak with someone on camera, the audible alarm button, and then the sleep button if you wanted to disable the camera. Now just under that we have the cloud storage or local storage with the SD card, so you can access events there as well. But if we go up into the settings button up at the top corner there's not as much configuration in the app as I see in a lot of camera apps. There is some stuff, just not quite as much. Right there at the top is the information section, so you can view device information or update the firmware for the camera if we needed to, which it looks like I'm already up to date, so I think we're good there. There's also a spotlight button for turning that spotlight on at night. Not sure why they don't have that spotlight button on the main screen. It seems like a little bit more work to have to go into the settings to turn it on, but nonetheless. Under the system section, we can adjust the date and time if we needed to, or maybe even the time zone. We can reboot the camera, as well as perform a full reset of the camera if we're running into major issues there. Now this camera requires you to have a security password set up that allows the app to communicate with the camera. This is where you would adjust that password here under the security section. You also have the ability to share the camera with other Vimtag users. And then there is also another button there for disabling the camera if we needed to. Now under notifications is where we can enable motion detection, which I definitely want to do. Sensitivity is set to high by default. Not sure if I'll leave it at that spot, but we're going to go with that for now. I do want human detection to be enabled, and that pretty much covers your motion detection area. There's also sound detection notifications as well. I tend to leave them off just because I feel like they trigger more than they really need to. But there is an option there if you are interested in sound detection. Let's see what else we got. We got record there as well, and the storage section for your cloud and local storage settings. Under network, we can see the Wi-Fi network information for the camera. This is where we can make changes to that Wi-Fi setup as well. There's also a button for checking the network to make sure that you have a good Wi-Fi signal. Now under image, we can flip the image depending on how we mounted the camera. So if we mounted the camera upside down, we may want to flip that image so that it shows properly. We can also make adjustments to the information shown on the screen. That's what the OSD section is there for. Under more, we can adjust the sound level of the speakers if we needed to, as well as make changes to the frequency and streaming quality. I like the fact that you can choose between H.264 and 265. Now, the last thing I want to bring up, which is probably my favorite thing about this camera, as you can see down there at the bottom, it supports ONVIF. So basically, if we put in a password here, as long as we have the IP information for the camera, we can add this camera to Home Assistant or even an NVR using ONVIF, which is awesome. You don't see that a lot on Wi-Fi cameras. So I definitely want to check that out. But that's pretty much everything that you can do in the settings for this camera. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section, and we're going to see if we can get this thing added into Home Assistant using ONVIF. So first things first is to make sure that we have ONVIF enabled in the app. So here we are. If we go to settings for the camera, down at the bottom is the experimental features. Well, this is where we can enable ONVIF. First thing is we have to enable it, then you got to give it a password. By default, the username is admin. I guess you could change it if you wanted to make it more secure. I'm just going to leave it admin, and then I'll create a password. Once all that is set up, then we need to go into our Home Assistant configuration, and we're going to go into the integration section, and this is where we're going to add an ONVIF device. We'll click on set up another instance of ONVIF here, since I already have my NVR added via ONVIF as well, and then we should be able to let it search automatically. Assuming that everything's on the same network, it shouldn't have a problem, and boom, you can see it found the camera. It's listed right there, IP cam, so we can select that. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the name to Vimtag, just so I can make it easier to find and stuff like that. Then of course we need to put in that username and password that we set in the ONVIF settings there, and then hit submit. And success! We now have the camera added as an ONVIF device in Home Assistant. And if we go and look at that here, we can see that if we click on that mainstream, there is our camera feed. And success! There's the stream. It looks really good. That's awesome. And I can even make it full screen here just to show you, and that looks pretty awesome. I mean, I'm pretty psyched that we were able to get this camera added into Home Assistant. This is definitely a cool feature for this little cheap camera, and definitely makes this way more appealing, at least in my opinion. You even have the ability to reboot the camera right here from Home Assistant as well, which also makes that pretty cool. I love the fact that this thing supports ONVIF. Something else to think about is if you have a camera NVR, you could more than likely add this to the NVR as well, since most NVRs will support ONVIF, which will of course give you continuous recording and stuff like that, so that's pretty awesome. Well, we got it added into Home Assistant. Let's move on to the last section, and I will give you my final thoughts. Alright, so first things first, we're going to start with some footage from the camera here. So we got some daytime footage. You can see it's got a pretty sweet image. I mean, this is a nice 4 megapixel, good quality image here. And of course we got some nighttime footage as well. I'll start off with just the regular IR infrared night vision, and it's got a pretty good quality to it as well. And then if we turn that little spotlight on that's on the camera, then we can get some color night vision. For a 4 megapixel camera, this thing looks pretty awesome. For the price, this is definitely worth checking out. Like I said before, this camera is great for renters. Maybe you can't mount a lot of stuff in your house, drilling holes or whatnot. This camera is super easy to set up. It runs on Wi-Fi. It even will handle up to a 512 gig SD card. And this camera works great for indoor and outdoor, so it's a pretty universal type camera. And with the ONVIF capabilities on top of that, makes it even better. I will have links to Vimtag's website as well as their Amazon storefront in the description below. Be sure to go over there and check everything out for yourself. As always, I want to thank everybody for donating to my Buy Me a Coffee link. Every little bit helps. If you haven't had a chance, head over to my spring merchandise page and check out all the Burns home automation merchandise. And if you're looking for the latest smart home gear, you're going to want to check out Smonet. I'll have a link in the description below. Head over there and see what deals they currently have running. If you're looking for the latest smart window treatment, you're going to want to check out Smartwings. I'll have a link in the description below for them as well. Head over there and see what deals they currently have running. If you're looking for a great deal on SIM cards for all of your IoT devices, you're going to want to check out Eiotclub. I'll have a link in the description below. Head over there and see what specials they currently have running. If you're interested in buying and selling stock and maybe cryptocurrency, check out Robinhood. There's a link in the description below for them as well. If you sign up with that link, you and I both will get a free share of stock. It's a win-win for both of us. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments below. As always, if there are any videos out there that you would like to see that I don't already have out there, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can't get something put together for you guys. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around.